Book 3 of The Battle of Marathon by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recorded by Nathan at antipodeanwriter.wordpress.com. The Battle of Marathon by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Book 3. When from the deep the hour's eternal sway impels the courses of the flaming day, the long-haired Greeks with brazen arms prepare their freedom to preserve and wage the war. First Aristides from the couch arose, while his great mind with all Minerva glows. His mighty limbs his golden arms invest, the cuirass blazes on his ample breast, the glittering cuisses both his legs enfold, and the huge shields on fire with burnished gold. His hands 2 spears uphold of equal size, and fame's bright glories kindle in his eyes. Upon his helmet plumes of horsehair nod, and forth he moved, majestic as a god. Upon his snorting steed the warrior sprung, the courser neighed, the brazen armour rung. From heaven's ethereal heights the martial maid, with conscious pride, hero's might surveyed. Him as she eyed, she shook the Gorgon shield. "Henceforth to me," she cried, "let all the immortals yield. Let monster Mars the Latian regions own, for Attica, Minerva, stands alone." And now the unconquered chief of justice gains the Senate's walls, and there the steed detains, whence he dismounts. Miltiades he seeks, beloved of Jove, the leader of the Greeks. Nor sought in vain, there clad in armour bright, the chieftain stood, all eager for the fight. Within his aged hands 2 lances shine, the helmet blazed upon his brows divine, and as he bends beneath the unequal weight, youth smiles again, when with gigantic might his nervous limbs immortal arms could wield, crush foe on foe, and raging heap the field. Yet though such days were past, and ruthless age transformed the warrior to the thoughtful sage, though the remorseless hand of silent time impaired each joint and stiffened every limb, yet through his breast the fire celestial stole, throbbed in his veins, and kindled in his soul. In thought the Lord of Asia threats no more, and Hippias bites the dust mid seas of gore. Him as he viewed, the youthful hero's breast heaved high with joy, and thus the sage addressed: "Chief, best beloved of Pallas," he began, "in fame allied to gods, O wondrous man! Behold Apollo gilds the Athenian wall. Our freedom waits, and fame and glory call. To battle Asia's king, and myriads dare. Swell the loud trump, and swell the din of war," he said impatient. Then the warrior sage began, regardless of the fears of age: "Not mine, O youth, with caution to control the fire and glory of thy eager soul. So was I wont in brazen arms to shine, such strength and such impatient fire were mine," he said, and bade the trumpets' peals rebound. High and more high the echoing war notes sound. Sudden one general shout the din replies, 1,000 lances blazing as they rise, and Athens' banners wave and float along the skies. So from the marsh the cranes embodied fly, clap their glad wings, and cut the liquid sky. With thrilling cries they mount their joyful way, vigorous they spring and hail the new-born day. So rose the shouting Greeks, inspired by fame, to assert their freedom and maintain their name. First came Themistocles, in arms renowned, whose steed impatient tore the trembling ground. High o'er his helmet snowy plumes arise, and shade that brow which Persia's might defies. A purple mantle graceful waves behind, nor hides his arms, but floats upon the wind. His mighty form two crimson belts enfold, rich in embroidery and stiff with gold. Callimachus, the Polemarch, next came, the theme of general praise and general fame. Cynaegirus, who even the gods would dare heap ranks on ranks and thunder through the war. His virtues godlike, man's his strength surpassed, in battle foremost, and in flight the last. His ponderous helms a shaggy lion's hide, and the huge war-axe clattered at his side. The mighty chief a brazen chariot bore, while fame and glory hail him and adore. Antenor next his aid to Athens gave, like Paris youthful, and like Hector brave. Cleon, Minerva's priest, experienced sage, advanced in wisdom as advanced in age. Gregorus, Delenus' favourite child, the parents' cares the glorious son beguiled. But now he leaves his sire to seek his doom, his country's freedom, or a noble tomb. And young Aratus, moved with youthful pride, and heart elated at the hero's side. Next thou, Cleones, thou triumphant moved, by Athens honoured, by the Greeks beloved, and Cethelenus the echoing pavements trod, from youth devoted to the martial god. Honour unspotted crowned the hero's name, unbounded virtue and unbounded fame. Such heroes shone the foremost of the host, all Athens' glory and all Athens' boast. Behind a sable cloud of warriors rise, with ponderous arms and shouting rend the skies. These bands with joy Miltiades inspire, fame fills his breast and sets his soul on fire. Aloft he springs into the gold-wrought car, while the shrill blast resounds, "To war! To war!" The coursers plunge, as conscious of their load, and proudly neighing, feel they bear a god. The snow-white steeds by Pallas' self were given, which sprung from the immortal breed of heaven. The car was wrought of brass and burnished gold, and diverse figures on its bulk were told, of heroes who in plunging to the fight shrouded Troy's glories in eternal night, of fierce Pylades who relenting gave at Priam's prayer to Hector's corpse a grave. Here Spartan Helen flies her native shore, to bid proud Troy majestic stand no more. There Hector clasps his consort to his breast, consoles her sufferings, though himself oppressed. And there he rushes to the embattled field, for victory or death, nor even in death to yield. Here Ilium prostrate feels the Argive ire, her heroes perished, and her towers on fire. And here old Priam breathes his last drawn sigh, and feels 'tis least of all his griefs to die. There his loved sire, divine Aeneas, bears, and leaves his own with all a patriot's tears, while in one hand he holds his weeping boy, and looks his last on lost, unhappy Troy. The warrior seized the reins, the impatient steeds foam at the mouth and spring where glory leads. The gates the heroes pass, the Athenian dames bend from their towers and bid them save from flames their walls, their infant heirs, and fill the skies with shouts, entreaties, prayers, and plaintive cries. Echo repeats their words, the sounds impart new vigour to each Greek's aspiring heart. Forward with shouts they press, and hastening on, try the bold lance and dream of Marathon. Meanwhile the Persians on the embattled plain prepare for combat, and the Greeks disdain. Twice 20 sable bulls they daily pay, unequalled homage to the god of day. Such worthy gifts the wealthy warriors bring, and such the offerings of the Persian king. While the red wine around his altars flowed, they beg protection from the flaming god. But the bright patron of the Trojan war accepts their offerings, but rejects their prayer. The power of love alone dares rigid fate to vent on Greece her vengeance and her hate. Not love for Persia prompts the vengeful dame, but hate for Athens and the Grecian name. In Phoebus' name the fraudful queen receives the hecatombs, and happy omens gives. And now the heralds with one voice repeat the will of Datis echoing through the fleet, to council, to convene the Persian train, that Athens' chiefs should brave their might in vain. The chiefs and Hippias' self his will obey, and seek the camp the heralds lead the way. There on the couch their leader Datis sate, in ease luxurious and in kingly state. Around his brow pride deep and scornful played, a purple robe his slothful limbs arrayed, which o'er his form its silken draperies fold. Majestic sweeps the ground and glows with gold, while Artaphernes, resting at his side, surveys the advancing train with conscious pride. The elder leader, mighty Datis, then assembled princes, great and valiant men, and thou thrice glorious Hippias, loved by heaven, to whom, as to thy sire, is Athens given. Behold the Grecian banners float afar, shouting they hail us and provoke the war. Then, mighty chiefs and princes, be it yours to warm and fire the bosoms of our powers, that when the morn has spread her saffron light, the Greeks may own and dread Darius' might. For know, O chiefs, when once proud Athens falls, when Persian flames shall reach her haughty walls, from her depression wealth to you shall spring, and honour, fame, and glory to your king. He said, his words the princes' breasts inspire, silent they bend, and with respect retire. And now the Greeks in able marches gain, by Aulus fired the Marathonian plain. Before their eyes the unbounded ocean rolls, and all Darius' fleet unawed their souls. They fix their banners, and the tents they raise, and in the sun their polished javelins blaze. Their leader's self within the brazen car their motions orders, and prepares for war. Their labours over, the aged hero falls, the chiefs to council midst the canvas walls. And then the sage, how great the Persian host! But let them not their strength or numbers boast, their slothful minds to love of fame unknown. Sigh not for war, but for the spoil alone. Strangers to honour's pure immortal light, they not as heroes, but as women fight. Grovelling as proud and cowardly as vain, the Greeks they fear, their numbers they disdain. And now, Athenians, fired by glory, rise, and lift your fame unsullied to the skies. Your victim, Persia, liberty, your prize. And now twice 20 sable bullocks bring, to heap the altars of the thundering king. Bid 12 white heifers of gigantic breed, to Jove's great daughter, wise Minerva, bleed, and then in sleep employ the solemn night, nor till Apollo reigns provoke the fight. The hero said, the warlike council o'er, they raise the lofty altars on the shore. They pile in heaps the pride of all the wood. They fall the first who first in beauty stood, the pine that soars to heaven, the sturdy oak, and cedars crackle at each hero's stroke. And now 2 altars stand of equal size, and lift their forms majestic to the skies. The heroes then twice 20 bullocks bring, a worthy offering to the thundering king. The aged leader seized the sacred knife, blow followed blow, out gushed the quivering life. Through their black hides the ruthless steel is driven, the victims groan, Jove thunders from his heaven. And then their bulks upon the pile they lay, the flames rush upward, and the armies pray. Driven by the wind, the roaring fires ascend, and now they hiss in air, and now descend. With all their sap, the new-cut faggots raise their flames to heaven, and crackle as they blaze. And then the sage, "O thou of powers above, the first and mightiest, hear, eternal Jove, give us, that Athens in her strength may rise, and lift our fame and freedom to the skies." This said, he ceased. The assembled warriors pour the sacred incense, and the god adore. Then partial Jove propitious heard their prayer, thrice shook the heavens, and thundered through the air. With joy the Greeks the favouring sign inspires, and their breasts glow with all the warlike fires. And now 12 heifers, white as snow, they lead to great Minerva's sacred name to bleed. They fall, their bulks upon the pile are laid, sprinkled with oil, and quick in flame arrayed. And now, descending midst the darkening skies, behold the goddess of the radiant eyes. The ground she touched beneath the mighty load, earth groaning rocks, and nature hails the god. Within her hand her father's lightnings shone, and shield that blazes near the eternal throne. The Greeks with fear her dauntless form surveyed, and trembling bowed before the blue-eyed maid. Then favouring thus began the power divine, while in her eyes celestial glories shine. "Ye sons of Athens, loved by heaven," she cries, "revered by men, be valiant and be wise. When morn awakes, direst numbers dare, clang your loud arms, and rouse the swelling war. But first to yon proud fleet a herald send, to bid the Persians yield and fight suspend. For vainly to their God they suppliant call, Jove favours Greece, and Pallas wills their fall." She said, and through the depths of air she flies, mounts the blue heaven, and scales the liquid skies. The Greeks rejoicing thank the powers above, and Jove's great daughter, and eternal Jove. And now a herald to the fleet they send, to bid the Persians yield and war suspend. Through the divided troops the herald goes, through Athens' host, and through the unnumbered foes. Before the holy man the Persian bands, reverend, give way, and ask what Greece demands. He tells not all, but that he chosen seeks Datis their chief, by order of the Greeks. The mission but in part he sage reveals, and what his prudence prompts him he conceals. Then to their chief they lead him, where he sate, with pomp surrounded, and in gorgeous state. Around his kingly couch his arms were spread, flaming in gold by forge Cyclopean made. And then stern Datis frowning thus began, What hopes deceive thee, miserable man? What treacherous fate allures thee thus to stray? Through all our hosts what gods beguile the way? Thinkest thou to 'scape the Persian steel, when Greece, our herald crushed, and banished hopes of peace? But speak, what will the Greeks, and do they dare to prove our might and tempt the unequal war? Or do they deign to own Darius' sway, and yield to Persia's might the embattled day? To whom the Athenian herald made reply: The Greeks disdain your terms, and scorn to fly. Unknown to heroes and to sons of Greece, the shameful slavery of a Persian peace, defiance stern, not servile gifts I bring. Your bonds detested, and despised your king. Of equal size, the Greeks 2 altars raise to Jove's high glory and Minerva's praise. The god propitious heard, and from the skies descends the goddess of the azure eyes, and thus began: Assembled Greeks, give ear, attend my wisdom, nor my glory fear. When morn awakes, Darius' numbers dare clang your loud arms, and rouse the swelling war. But first to yon proud fleet a herald send, to bid the Persians yield, and war suspend. For vainly to their God they suppliant call. Jove favours Greece, and Pallas wills their fall. The goddess spoke, the Athenians own her sway. I seek the fleet, and heaven's command obey. The Greeks disdain your millions in the war, nor I, O chief, your promised vengeance fear. Strike, but remember that the God on high, who rules the heavens and thunders through the sky, not unrevenged will see his herald slain, nor shall thy threats his anger tempt in vain. And thus the Greek. Then Datis thus replies, flames black and fearful scowling from his eyes: Herald, away, and Asia's vengeance fear. Back to your frenzied train my mandate bear, that Greece and Grecian gods may threat in vain. We scorn their anger and their wrath disdain. For he who lights the earth and rules the skies, with happy omens to our vows replies. When morn uprising breathes her saffron light, prepare to dare our millions in the fight. Thy life I give, Darius' will to say, and Asia's hate. Hence, chief, no more, away. He said, and anger filled the Grecian's breast, but prudent he the rising wrath suppressed. Indignant through the canvas tents he strode, and silently invoked the thundering God. Fears for his country in his bosom rose, as on he wandered midst unnumbered foes. He strikes his swelling breast, and hastens on over the wide plains of barren Marathon. And now he sees the Grecian banners rise, and well-armed warriors blaze before his eyes. Then thus he spoke: Ye Grecian bands, give ear; ye warrior chiefs and Attic heroes, hear. Your will to Asia's other prince I told, all which you bade me, chieftains, to unfold. But Pallas' vengeance I denounced in vain. Your threats he scorned, and heard with proud disdain. The God, he boasts, who lights the earth and skies, with happy omens to his vows replies. Then when the uprising morn extends her light, prepare, ye Greeks, to dare his powers in fight. He said, The Greeks for instant strife declare their will, and arm impatient for the war. Then he, their godlike chief, as Pallas sage, "Obey my counsels, and repress your rage, Ye Greeks," he cried. "The sacred night displays her shadowy veil, and earth in gloom arrays her sable shades. Even Persia's chiefs obey, and wait the golden mandate of the day. Such is the will of Jove and gods above, and such the order of the loved of Jove." He said. The Greeks their leader's word obey. They seek their tents, and wait the approaching day. Over either host celestial somnus reigns, and solemn silence lulls the embattled plains. End of Book 3. Recorded by Nathan at antipodeanwriter.wordpress.com.